In 2005, the DC Comics hype machine went into overdrive in preparation for an event titled Infinite Crisis. The way they decided to promote this event was to have 5 miniseries act as a prologue to the event. Those 5 miniseries were Day of Vengeance, The Rann-Thanagar War, The Return of Donna Troy, Villains United, and today's story, The OMAC Project. Now, the really funny thing about this was, the prologue got its own prologue in the form of an 80-page special issue called Countdown. Not that. That's Countdown to Final Crisis. I'm talking about Countdown to Infinite Crisis, and it's actually collected in the OMAC Project. So that's where we will be starting this story.
At a castle located deep in the Swiss Alps, the Blue Beetle lands his craft, known as the Bug, and begins trying to break into the compound, looking for answers.
The Blue Beetle was the alter ego of one Ted Kord, and was actually owned and published by a company called Charlton Comics until somewhere around the mid-'80s, when the company was eventually acquired by DC. Not too long after that acquisition, the character wound up joining the Justice League. We'll have some more on that later.
Beetle begins flashing back to a few days before when Barbara Gordon, aka Oracle, informed him that someone had been siphoning funds from his company, Kord Industries. As a result, Ted Kord was nearly bankrupt. In need of assistance, the Beetle pays a visit to his longtime ally, Booster Gold.
Booster Gold is the alias of Michael Carter and Michael John Carter, and he was a football star in the 25th century. That was until he got banned for competing in a game-fixing scandal. He wound up becoming a night watchman at the Metropolis Space Museum. Around the time he began stealing several artifacts from the future and then install a time machine in order to travel back to the 20th century, using these artifacts to kind of set himself up as a one-man superhero corporation. He was also a member of the Justice League alongside the Blue Beetle. They had a lot of adventures together.
Booster suggests that the two seek advice from one of the best financial minds they know, Maxwell Lord.
Maxwell Lord is a business magnate in the DC Universe. He's so wealthy that he actually wound up bankrolling an incarnation of the Justice League. He also wound up diversifying that incarnation to the point where the main league was called Justice League International, while there was also Justice League Europe, Justice League Task Force, Extreme Justice, and eventually Justice League Antarctica. Now, this incarnation of the Justice League was known primarily for its humor and not really taking themselves seriously. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, for example, were always getting the get-rich-quick schemes. Captain Marvel was often portrayed as being blinder than white bread. The Green Lantern was a guy named Guy Gardner who constantly found himself getting into fights because he was such a short-tempered hothead. And suffice to say, in the DC Universe, that incarnation of the League is, well, not well respected.
Lord tells the two that their superheroing days are really behind them and they should just move on. Disappointed, Beetle decides to go to Batman, only to get turned away due to the Dark Knight being preoccupied with something else. Things go from bad to worse as one of Kord Industries' warehouses gets robbed. Superman shows up, and the Blue Beetle informs him that the primary contents taken were 300 pounds of kryptonite. Supes gives Ted a metaphorical pat on the head and then leaves. Later, Booster and Beetle begin looking through Kord Industries' computer records when the computer is somehow shot by a laser from the sky. As a critically injured Booster is loaded into an ambulance, Beetle notices the Beetle Scarab that belonged to his mentor, Dan Garrett, is glowing. Picking up the Scarab causes Beetle to be transported to the Rock of Eternity, home of the Wizard Shazam. Alas, even the almighty entity of magic is too preoccupied to help. Upon returning to the mortal plane, Beetle calls for his ship, the Bug, only to have it explode, throwing him backwards. Beetle works up in the infirmary of the Watchtower, the JLA headquarters, and Wonder Woman checks up on him. Ted laments his situation, saying that no one believes him. Diana, however, says that she believes him, and to give her a call if he ever really needs help. Beetle then slowly makes his way back to Earth. Upon his return, Blue Beetle makes a discovery about his costume, in particular his goggles. Ted goes to the hospital to confront Booster about the whereabouts of his companion, Skeets.
Skeets was a 25th century security robot who worked alongside Booster Gold at the Space Museum. When they both traveled back in time to the 20th century, Booster stored Skeets with over 500 years worth of newspaper headlines. This would aid Booster in his superhero corporation plan.
It turns out that someone got a hold of Skeets, dismantled him, and used the parts to make new goggles for Booster. This would act as a computer to relay personal information from Ted Kord to whoever built the goggles. As Beetle prepares to leave the hospital, Booster gets up to help him in the fight. Unfortunately, Booster's in no condition to travel, and as the nurses continue to work on Booster, Ted leaves his friend with a message. It's not his fault. Whatever happens, it's not his fault. Returning to the present, Beetle is stunned by what he finds. It's a large computer containing inordinate amounts of personal information and security footage on every superhero in the DC Universe. Except for Blue Beetle, whose file reads, deceased. It's then that the mastermind behind the situation reveals himself. Maxwell Lord. Lord introduces the Blue Beetle to Checkmate.
Checkmate is the name of a secret government organization in the DC Universe that was created in order to monitor superhero activities throughout the world. Now, the group operates on a chessboard motif. The heads are a white and black king and queen, and the subordinates are knights, rooks, bishops, pawns, and the like. Now, this incarnation of Checkmate has actually been perverted by Maxwell Lord into being an organization hell-bent on eliminating superpowered individuals from the DC Universe.
Beetle tries to attack Lord, but is halted by Max telling him to stand down. Blood is running out of Max's nose.
Yeah, it's sort of the ultimate act of hypocrisy. Maxwell Lord has the ability to control minds. So yeah, he's a superpowered being trying to eliminate all the other superpowered beings in the DC Universe. The strain on him from trying to do this, though, does result in the nosebleeds.
Lord makes Blue Beetle an offer. Join Checkmate or die. Beetle tells Max to rot in hell. Later, Batman receives a package. Inside are the Blue Beetle's smashed goggles. Ted Kord is dead. Later, Batman talks to a stunned Wonder Woman, Superman, and Booster Gold. He explains that Checkmate took control of Brother One, a satellite Wayne Tech developed to monitor superhuman activities on Earth. He then informs the trio of Beetle's death. Booster lashes out, angry that Batman rebuffed Kord when he needed help the most. Wonder Woman holds Booster back as Superman inquires more on Brother One. Batman explains that incidents in the past necessitated the need for surveillance.
During the storyline titled Identity Crisis, it was revealed that the Justice League had participated in several mind wipes of super criminals. Basically, they would remove certain memories, try to effectively alter their personality to, well, make them less aggressive and, well, just neuter them outright. Eventually, Batman discovered this and tried to stop a group of heroes from doing this. However, he himself wound up being mind wiped, though the Dark Knight would eventually regain his memory of the incident.
The quartet splits up, with Superman heading back to Metropolis, Batman heading down to Earth to check with an informant, and Booster and Wonder Woman leaving to try and locate Brother One. All this is actually being watched by Brother One and Maxwell Lord. Lord then calls in his knight, Sasha Bordeaux. Sasha informs Max that the other heads of Checkmate have arrived. At the meeting, Max accuses the Black Queen of being the informant to Batman. Before she can deny, her knight, Jessica Midnight, kills her. Jessica then turns and kills the White King and Queen. Jessica is dragged away to a jail cell, while Max wipes his nose and sends Sasha to Chicago.
Sasha Bordeaux was a bodyguard who was hired by Wayne Enterprises to guard Bruce Wayne, though he tried to dodge her at every instant he could. Eventually, she was able to piece together that Bruce Wayne was Batman, and became kind of a sidekick / love interest for him. Though she would eventually wind up taking the fall for the murder of his then-girlfriend, Vesper Fairchild. And this is what led her into joining Checkmate. And if you haven't figured it out, yes, she's Bruce's informant on the inside.
Sasha and Batman meet up in Chicago, unaware that Max has actually been tracking them. Their romantic reunion is interrupted by an army of beings known as OMACs.
The name OMAC comes from a comic book created by the legendary Jack Kirby in 1974. The name is an acronym for One Man Army Corps. Now, clearly, there's more than one of these OMACs, so they're not one-man Army Corps, but they do share a similar design motif to the original. They both have mohawks, and they both have red eye pendants on their front of the neck.
The OMACs prove to be too much for Batman and take Sasha hostage while throwing him into Lake Michigan. Superman pulls Batman from the lake and takes him back to the Watchtower. Meanwhile, Booster and Wonder Woman continue their search for Brother One, only to turn up nothing. The two are then interrupted by Guy Gardner.
Guy Gardner was a member of the Green Lantern Corps who served as kind of a backup to Hal Jordan. Now, he was a member of the Justice League alongside Booster and Beetle, and his most defining character trait was that he had a very short temper and a bit of a freewheeling nature. This would often lead him into a lot of idiotic predicaments. Most notably, one time he challenged Batman to a fight, only to get dropped in one punch.
Booster thanks Diana for her help, but she was never really part of their league and leaves with Guy. Back at Checkmate headquarters, Max throws Sasha into jail with Jessica and then goes to the Brother One computer. There he makes contact with someone. He says that several powerful enemies are threatening the planet, and if this isn't stopped, all will die. In Metropolis, Superman receives his orders, loud and clear.
Now, the next 4 parts of the storyline actually took place in the 3 Superman comics and Wonder Woman. And of those 4 parts, called Sacrifice, only the Wonder Woman issue is collected in this trade. Hey, if DC's going to nutshell it on this, so am I.
Superman comes down from a fight with longtime foe Brainiac to find his hands covered with human blood. When he goes to the JLA for help, he keeps recounting different battles in different ways. First he was fighting Brainiac, then he was fighting Darkseid, and eventually he was fighting Ruin. It turns out the person he was really fighting was Batman, who he's nearly beaten into a coma. Wonder Woman eventually figures out that Maxwell Lord is behind everything and tracks him down. However, Lord is able to call on Superman and convince him that Diana is actually Doomsday and the hulking brute has just killed Lois Lane. An enraged Superman attacks Wonder Woman and they begin fighting all over the world. Eventually Diana is able to work her way back to Max, tie him up in a lasso of truth. She orders Max to free Superman. He acquiesces but points out that he could easily retake control of Superman if he wants to. The only real way to free Superman is to kill him. Without thinking twice, Wonder Woman snaps Max's neck, killing him instantly. Superman is stunned as he comes to. Wonder Woman explains that she did what needed to be done. This was an act of self-defense, not murder. At the sight of Lord's dead body, Brother One then initiates a program called Scorched Earth. The satellite begins activating OMACs all over the world. Meanwhile, Booster and Guy reunite with fellow JLI member Fire. She was actually able to track Blue Beetle's financial problems to one person, Maxwell Lord.
Unfortunately, this really marks the end of the JLI members being an inherent part of this story. They're really just footnotes for the rest of it. Sorry.
At Checkmate headquarters, Sasha and Jessica have broken out of jail and located Max's body. Sasha looks over Max's communicator and realizes that Brother One is actually activating the OMACs, not Max. Back at the Batcave, Batman wakes up to find Brother One contacting him. The computer rechristens himself Brother Eye and informs Bruce that it has activated 1.3 million OMACs all over the Earth in order to rid the world of superhumans. The computer then shows Bruce the feed from Checkmate headquarters, where Sasha and Jessica are attacked by an OMAC. Batman watches in horror as the OMAC impales Sasha Bordeaux. The OMAC then turns its attention to Jessica and moves in to kill her, but before it can strike, the OMAC is taken down by a suddenly revived Sasha. But something's changed. Sasha's skin has a metallic tinge to it and her eyes are red. Sasha fears that she has become an OMAC. However, Brother Eye points out that unlike the OMACs, Sasha is fully autonomous. Sasha uses this to her advantage. She contacts Batman and directs him to the Cord Industries warehouse. It turns out that Maxwell Lord was not actually looking for the kryptonite. Instead, Batman, along with Hal Jordan and John Stewart of the Green Lantern Corps, discover what Lord was really after: a massive electromagnetic pulse device capable of taking out the OMACs but sparing the people inside. Batman and Sasha then initiate a plan by gathering a large amount of superheroes in the Egyptian desert and using them to lure a large amount of OMACs, then setting off the EMP device. The OMACs are not completely eliminated, but the threat is neutralized. Afterwards, Batman convinces Sasha that she is not a machine, and Sasha's skin begins to revert to normal as the two kiss. Unfortunately, Brother Eye is still operating. The satellite hacks into several news media feeds around the world and begins beaming out an image. The image is of Wonder Woman killing Maxwell Lord.
So, how does the OMAC project stack up? Well, I was kind of of mixed feelings on this. There are parts of the story I really do like the artwork. I like a lot of the motif, the secret spy stuff, the government organizations, stealing surveillance satellites. That being said, unfortunately, one, the 4-part sacrifice storyline not being in the trade detracts from it major. And again, the way they kind of treat the remaining JLI members like they're just chopped liver leaves me feeling rather cold. I am going to give the OMAC project a C. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.